Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with AmericanScouser.com. I am back in action, back in freaking gloomy Chicago. And I thought New York weather was a lot better, mind you, but back in action at our regular time with our buddy Trevor over here. Trevor, what's up, man?
Not too much. Back to normal, so to speak. Yeah.
I guess, yeah. This is
That extra hour of sleep that I didn't take.
this is it's pretty bad when this is our normal, I guess. But the bad normal was probably the weekend. Another
Yeah.
great weekend to come back to and see that game on Saturday. Alan Elizabeth, as always, good morning, Alan. And it's there's obviously a lot of the headlines this morning are going to be weekend related and for us game related. The biggest thing that I see that is all over the freaking place is probably like the whole the FSG,
Yeah.
Red Sox FSG investments. Somebody went and found the trend, so it's pretty much in every freaking paper. Hey, this is what happened with the Red Sox and stuff. Are you a baseball guy, Trevor?
I am, and it's one
I'm
of those
sorry.
things. Hey, it's fine. It's okay. But yeah, going through those, that's a lot of straw grasping. That is trying to just put together something that is possibly not there. Because if you look at it in every league in every world, yeah, I'm sure like Jupiter has these same problems. Yep.
They're very competitive
This
over there.
week this weekend has made me as disheveled as Joe Gomez is passing. So we'll just kind of leave it as that. It's one of those things where every big market club has these periods where they either go all out with trades or expenditures, and most of the times at the back end of those contracts, it looks terrible. So this guy went and just pulled out like, oh man, by the end of this guy's contract, he's going to be 30, and this guy's going to be 32. Okay, that's 3 years from now. That's 6 transfer windows. Who knows what this team's going to look at like by then? So what point are you trying to make? Are you just saying that you know how to count? That you're able to say this guy's 30 now. 3 years, he's going to be 33. Article written. Great for you. Enjoy that. I'm glad that it got picked up by as many outlets as it did. Enjoy those, whatever.
I
It's
think
just
the
one of those things.
whole
Yeah.
it's very very difficult to like relate heck any American sports, but especially baseball. I think in terms of how the contracts work, how the trades work, the whole freaking minor league thing, the whole prospect thing, all that shit going on in the background. Sadly, despite my hatred for baseball, when you commute to work, uh as I was back in the day, you listen to a lot of sports media, and so you learn all these things even if you do not want to, because you want to hear about some regular sports or something, and you end up listening to a lot of baseball chatter, and it's totally different. So like you're saying, at the time for baseball, like you gotta somehow dump that guy's contract, or you're on the hook for the contract and stuff like that, whereas in soccer the guy can be sold. You don't know what's going to happen, or he can be playing a different role. The squads are deeper, and in terms of if you have a second baseman, you only need really one second freaking baseman, right? For the most part, it's not like you're gonna have to like rotate as much and stuff like that, or need a deeper squad for different tournaments. You just have freaking 8,000 games that you play for major league, and that's pretty much it. And then there's a lot of trades and stuff. So I think it's kind of like you're saying, trying to make something out of nothing. Having said that, where do you put? I mean, we kind of go, I wouldn't say back and forth. I think we're pretty consistent on this with like the Monday podcast and overall, but I don't think I have taken like heard your take on FSG's I guess percentage of faults, or what do you want to say in terms of like the decline we're seeing this year? How much of it do you put it on FSG?
Well, it's one of those things where going into the season, I think we were all very, very vocal about there needed to be improvements to the squad. It needed to get younger. It needed to get deeper, because there were a tons of guys that had regular injury issues, and you kind of had to factor that in. There's just going to be a sense of unreliability from guys like Naby and Ox just on a yearly basis. At this point, you either got to like put it on them or you got to put it on the medical team. That's its entire different argument at this point, because there's guys that were supposedly supposed to be back like 2 weeks ago that are still like getting put on the roster and not playing a minute, and guys that were supposed to be available for training yet aren't. So there's a huge disconnect on that level, but that's a completely different argument. In terms of FSG, I think they're not unwilling to spend money, but you have to go through so many different things and channels to get to the people with that money that sometimes I don't know if Klopp just doesn't feel it's worth it and thinks he can run it back. Because, and another thing that we as fans sit there going, this midfield needs to get strengthened all summer. It's like I don't care if it's just a body at this point. You just need people that you can rotate through in smaller games, so we're not running these kind of older guys like Thiago and Hendo and even Fabinho at this point. That guy, I don't know where all of this extra mileage came on him. Running these guys into the ground. And their plan at the end was a hurt Arthur. You can't make it up.
Another midfielder that gets hurt frequently is like, he'll fit in like a glove. Let's get him. He'll understand how this works.
Yeah.
But do you put that on FSU, or is that like, I mean, I feel like that's a little bit on Klopp. And I know maybe he doesn't have PEP funds. So you can kind of say, you know what? Yeah, well, let's just roll the dice on him for like 40 million. If he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out. I know he can't do that. But at the same time, you can't just wait for one guy as kind of almost as Klopp has. And then, Tremaine deal didn't happen. So, and then you kind of knew, despite our ridiculous optimism, that the Bellingham thing was not going to happen this summer. Because it was kind of too late in the game. It was a Dortmund team that already lost a huge piece, so they were not going to lose two huge pieces in the same offseason. So you kind of knew they're kind of preparing and planning to lose that next season. And so do you put that on Klopp as well, that we waited, like we just did not get anybody because I think it was like him or nothing, then I don't want anything else. If I can have a cheeseburger, then I don't want to eat, kind of an ordeal.
No, I think there is, plenty of blame to go around. And the whole like FSG out thing, the thing with like PSG and Man City and now Newcastle have set unrealistic expectations for big clubs around the world. Like you look at Barcelona now, they kind of circumvented the system and sold off a lot of assets. Trust me, it's already catching up to them now. And in 2 years, when a lot more of those bonds come due and a lot more of these financial woes continue to mount, that team is going to fall apart. Real Madrid is starting to really have these young guys come through and get upset because they're at Real Madrid. It's a dream club, but the wages aren't as high as they used to be. They're sitting a lot behind some of the old guard. And they go, why did I come here? If you don't want to loan me out, you don't want to do this or that, you kind of just want me to waste 2 years on the bench. It's sitting not great with the other people. But there's plenty of teams in plenty of countries that are able to manage the books and be able to get guys in that they need to at the right time. And we don't have these problems. So yes, there's a modicum of blame to go to FSG for just going, not looking at it objectively without Klopp's input and going, hey, this team is getting to a point where the minutes have piled up, the amount of work these guys have done on the field has piled up. We need to give them some cover. And whether it's somebody that Klopp is clamoring for or not, you have to just get people in there, and it's his job to make it work more than anything.
Yeah, it's like I say, you have to put some of that on Klopp. I don't know if FSG, and then do you want really FSG to say no, no, no? You need a midfielder here, Sangare or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Well, oh, that's not really what I wanted. I don't need a sweater. It's just like, do you buy somebody a Christmas gift they
Yeah.
don't want? Just go randomly shopping and get it. Like, he's a midfielder, so you want the guy to pick somebody, and I think this is where we kind of come to there's a fine line between what Klopp does in terms of squad building and like the whole togetherness and stuff like that, that we've loved over the last 3-4 seasons, right? So there is that, and at the same time there is almost like an extreme over the top loyalty, but some of that is needed to put that togetherness and that squad together, and I think that's kind of backfiring at the moment. Like, so you have this extra loyalty to some of these guys and count them in, like a Keita and an Ox, like into a midfield numbers, like he was like, oh, number of midfielders. I mean, come on, man. Like, you have the same information that we do, and you have the same history record that we see. So you got to know that those guys are not going to be there in a majority of the time. So in a majority of the time, you are still going to be picking out of 3-4 midfielders, not 8 or 9 midfielders. And I think, when we did all these signings in the offseason, we thought all summer that there was going to be a formation change. And that's why, Carvalho was signed, for example. Like, he was kind of the part of that piece. Same thing for Nunez. We were like, oh, we're going to be changing something, maybe go to that 4-2-3-1 and stuff. And we really did not until we had to, and we couldn't put together like 3 freaking midfielders. And that's why I don't understand what the plan was in the off season. I think this is a very rigid team of like trainers and club systems that do not really deviate a lot from what they have. And when you have a short off season like this, it kind of like throws them off as well, and they can't maybe put in as many hours as they want into the tactical part of things or whatever it might be. And it's just felt like we did not pull a trigger. I would be very, in an alternate world, I don't know if you could go play this over again, where we have a regular summer with the same situation and see if anything else turns out to be different. Like, these guys maybe get more rest and healthier. They have more legs, like Hando and Fab and stuff like that. I mean, the drop in Fabinho has been unreal to see, like, from one of the world's top defensive midfielders to what he is today. But it's, I don't know, like, you watch the game against Leeds, and we're going to dissect probably the hell out of it tonight, as much as I really don't want to with the boys. I mean, you can't just put it on one player. You can't even put it on 2 players. You just see a cumulative lack
there's a
of
collective failure.
Yeah. And so why do you think that is? Like, what is your take on, like, this is what's causing it? Because it is collective. It's not like, or is this such a group that functions as a team that all it takes is 1 or 2 people not functioning properly to make the collective look like crap?
Yeah, I wish I wish I had the proper pulse on it, because there's things that go wrong in these games that get out of hand, and it's never really the same. And we've talked about together how Gomez is an easy target, because there's a lot of times where things go wrong and he's the guy just out of frame, or he's the guy out of position, or he makes that one big mistake. But that at some point has to go on somebody else for throwing him out there over and over again and giving him these opportunities to make these decisions in these moments. And just, it's he played bad, and he's played bad in a couple of games that we've lost, and he's had a huge hand in those losses. But there's things to be said of, okay, if Kanate's ready, and because all things are said, like, yeah, he's going to be back for this week, this, that, and the other thing, he's back, he's healthy, we're ready to go. Why is he not playing when Gomez is struggling? Why is there things where, and we're talking about, like you guys were talking about in the post game too, Jones and Carvalho getting thrown in out of position over and over and over and over again. If Ox is healthy, why can't he get those 20 minutes. He's a guy that has that versatility, that can do those things, and has the experience where he's not going to get frazzled in a big moment and cough the ball up.
Yes.
And you're just sitting there going, okay. And that's why I'm talking about like the disconnects between the front office, the coaching staff, and the medical staff. Of nobody seems to know what's the case with anything. Nobody knows if there's money or there's not. Nobody knows who's playing and who's not. Nobody knows who's available and who's not. And none of those three entities being incongruence is throwing everything out of whack. And so these guys are coming in on a game day and they're looking at the sheet going, okay, wait, this, all right, why are we doing this? Why can't we give this guy a break? So when the media comes next week, and it's just going, okay, it was meritorious that Gomez played bad, so he's sitting, because we have the options to let him sit and figure it out in his head. No, they just kept throwing him out there, and it was like, oh man, this guy continues to stink. Well, there has to come a point where there's some accountability of maybe it's we stop putting the guy that's struggling out there and try something different, instead of just going, well, the guy who's struggling can't stop struggling. So there has to be some give or take.
Yeah, and I mean, this weekend, that first goal, it was just like, what the? It just felt so surreal, and it was like a rage quit FIFA moment. If that shit happens, you just like, you know what, fuck this.
100%.
And I don't even know how it happens. You kind of put partial fault in both, I think, but I mean, you can kind of tell, like, after a great defensive play of getting the ball, Gomez, like with the outside of his foot, like away from, I don't even know why, he could just toe poke it over there if he wanted to, and it would like let the ball like bounce towards him. But you're right. I think in terms of trotting the same people out there, and there are guys who have been on this bench who have not gotten a chance out there. And if they were not going to, look, we're not there for the practices, right? If they're not good in practice or whatever they're doing, I understand that. But then why are they in the squads? You see them over the summer. I mean, at this point, one way or the freaking other that Nat Phillips is going to play on this team or not going to play on this team. So either like we should move on from him, unless he's just there to hold the numbers up in terms of like homegrown players and stuff like that. That's the only reason I can see why he's still like trotting back and forth. I mean, if I was him, I'd be like, why am I even warming up? This is a waste of my time over here, kind of a deal. But that's frustrating to see. I was shocked. I mean, I just jokingly say it all the time, but I was shocked that Ox did not go in that game and did not get that chance. Because like you're saying, if anything, it's a guy who's been there, done that, who's probably going to be a bit more calm and, make maybe slightly better decisions because of that calmness when he is out there, and he does provide a different threat. The only thing that I'd be afraid of, throwing Ox out there is, maybe he's going to over try some things to make that impact, to show that, hey, I'm impacting the game. But if anybody's going to do that, I think I'd rather have Ox try to do that, who's been there and done that. And we did not see that at all. It almost feels like Klopp is confused and frustrated. And that's probably the most worrying thing. Like, we're like, what the heck is going on? And, we're trying to look at, like, everybody's looking at something different. One guy is chasing FSG. The other guy is chasing this guy. Like, somebody's like chasing Gomez down the street and stuff. And it almost feels like Klopp was the same way, where he does not really know. And I think, like, I get that from the players too. They're like, it's one of those things where like nothing is freaking working. I mean, if you think about it, and it would not be fair to Leeds, to be honest. I mean, if we won that game, I don't think we deserved the win out of that game, but we still had a bunch of chances that we could not convert on. It was the same thing in the Forest game. It's like, God, nothing is going in. Is it just a matter of that? It's just like a bad spell where if one or two things went in, the whole momentum shifts, the whole confidence shifts, and we see a team that played against Ajax instead of a team that played against Forest.
Well, that was kind of the deal with Bournemouth. You got a lot of goals really quickly. and it kind of allowed them to not get comfortable. Whereas with Forest and Leeds, granted in much different scenarios, conceded first, and it gives them that extra little bit of confidence to just have their goalkeeper stand on his head when you have that bit of a buffer, which Henderson and Medley both did. And you go back to the Merseyside derby with Pickford. Everton had the better chances despite not doing fuck all with the ball for the majority of that game. And that helps your goalie a lot. And now there's something where now we're chasing the game. And granted, got one back in this one very quickly, but there was never a time where I felt Leeds felt intimidated by that. Whereas if you go and you kind of put your foot down early and you go convert your chances, the lesser teams will usually fold. And it's just something it's happened all season where,
and that's the problem. I think it's like goes from the lack of confidence the back line has, to the tired legs that the midfield has, to the maybe lack of confidence or finishing that the front line has. Because it's not like, I mean, everybody's like, every team we play, the goalie is ridiculous. Is it though, or we just are not finishing? I mean, there's only so many coincidences where the goalie is playing a great game, or maybe you just not putting it far away enough from the goalie to enable him to make a save.
I think that this is against the lesser teams more than anything, and I'm going to put Everton in there as a lesser team because this is where they are in their current trajectory, and they're, I think, trying to build their team better to kind of build a new identity. But it's a totally different thing. But I think it is for those 3 games that it was a bit part of pieces of us not finishing properly, and also the goalies standing on their head because they know this is a place where they can make an impact, and that's fine. But there was also games where you look at the Brighton game where Sanchez made a couple big saves, but there was we also scored 3 goals. So it's not all, like you say, it's not all the goalies making huge saves over and over again, because and against Arsenal, Ramsdale had a couple of absolute howlers, but made the saves when he needed to. Our guys, that final goal from Somerville, they had to get it through 5 people before Somerville got that shot on Allison, and he had to get it in by a millimeter inside the far post to get it past him. There has to be something that's said with all of that going, okay, this is not like a keeper thing. This is something where there's so many levels that are not performing well. And you just spelled it out perfectly. It's not like, oh, our strikers can't score like we're Wolves, or there's something where our backline's terrible, or there's deficiencies at every level, and it's something that we just think is going to like work itself out with time. No, time is just going to make it worse. You don't get less tired when you play every week.
I think it's because we see these occasional glimpses where, like the City game and stuff like that, and you're like, there you go, it's back. Like, when the TV goes out in the old days, you kind of like hit it a couple of times and it starts working. You're like, there you go, it's back. Back to the clear picture again. And then you're like, oh shit, the antenna is fucked. And then you kind of go back to where you were originally. And I think that's where we're at. I mean, we'll have tomorrow morning to talk about the Napoli game in detail, because we'll probably know more today from the press conference and stuff as well. But before we even get there, before we even kind of hear Klopp and what he has to say about the game, what do you expect to see? Is it kind of like rest the boys kind of a thing, or do we try to play ourselves out of it, because that has its own danger?
No, I'm at this point where I don't want to recognize a single name I see on that pitch against Napoli. I want to see Bacetich. I want to see Ramsey finally get in there. I want to see a bunch of kids that are playing in high school stadiums. I want no person out there that is going to play a single minute against Spurs. We're through. It's something where I think we'd have to beat Napoli like 5-0 to win the group or something of that
here's
sort.
another thing. It's not even like, oh, when you play your regular starters, we have a shot at this. I just don't see. Yeah.
Napoli came at us full strength and knocked our dicks in the dirt. This is not something where they're in the best form in their league as well. So yeah, it's not like we'd just be going in against their reserves are disgusting. So yeah, just treat it like a Carabao Cup game. I genuinely
I think
don't
so.
want
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of hoping for as well. But we'll see what both coaches say today, because I almost feel like they're waiting to see what we do as well. But they're on a roll, so I can see them saying, "Let's keep going and keep the momentum." And it's a pretty deep team, especially in midfield and in the front line. So they can still field a pretty strong team with maybe rotating 5-6 guys is what I expect out of Napoli to do. And the fact that it's a Tuesday game obviously gives a lot more time to the weekend's Serie A game for them as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what they both say. So we'll be able to talk about that tomorrow, do some early predictions for the game. And we'll go back to the misery of watching afterwards. It's kind of been like a surreal season so far. I'm just watching in autism. Like I said, it's just watching. It literally feels like watching like a FIFA glitch, where just nothing goes in, everything is happening bad. You're like, what the fuck is going on? It's like an Ultimate Team scam or something like that EA got in trouble for. But let's hope that's what it is, and then we'll figure this out. But Trevor, thanks a lot, and thanks to all those listening, liking, all that good stuff. We'll see you guys here tonight, actually, 7 Central and 8 Eastern.
Yeah. Also, if you're coming through on the YouTube for this, subscribe, because this is the last day of the giveaway.
Oh, that's right. It is the last day of the giveaway. Good call. I've been posting it all over Facebook and stuff, and I know there's going to be other social media posts today. Yes, last day. Subscribe, get your name in there, be one of the 3 winners. We had a couple more people jumping on, but you still have like a pretty good shot at winning this thing, because there's already 3 winners in those subscribers that have disqualified. So yes, hop on, subscribe, get in there, and then we'll make the drawing. Actually, tomorrow morning we'll be announcing the winners for that one as well. Are you dressing up for tonight? Are you going trick-or-treating?
Absolutely not. My goal, I have 2 bags of candy. That we have a pretty quiet neighborhood. Like each kid that comes up is getting like 15 pieces. I'm just gonna drop it.
If you're that dream house, though, the word spreads fast. Like people from the next subdivision start coming over. So be careful what you wish for. Better have some backup bags.
Limited time only. Once it's gone, it's gone. I ain't running down to Cumberland Farms to get more.
All this candy must go. Yeah, that's what I normally do. Yeah. Okay, Trevor, thanks a lot. And thanks to everybody as always. See you guys later tonight. Take care.